and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Before we get started tonight, I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, AMAC. As we approach another critical election, a wave of concern washes over America. Recent studies reveal that an astonishing 56% of our fellow citizens report feelings of anxiety or dread about the upcoming presidential election. That's why I stand with AMAC. AMAC is more than a senior discount organization. During these challenging times, they fight for common sense and hope that our nation returns to traditional American values. Visit amac.us/Lara today to seize an exclusive election year special, a 4-year AMAC membership for just $30. As an AMAC member, you not only enjoy money-saving benefits, but also the AMAC magazine, free Social Security and Medicare advice, a trusted voice in Washington, and a community of like-minded patriots who love this great nation. By becoming an AMAC member, you're strengthening a movement dedicated to preserving the principles we hold dear. Take advantage of this election year special, a 4-year for $30 membership, and be part of the solution over the next 4 years. You can join now at amac.us/Lara. That's amac.us/LARA. Tonight, we are joined by national best-selling author and North Korean defector, Yeonmi Park. Yeonmi, thank you so much for joining us. I think your story is so fascinating. I think it's a story that everyone should hear. You received a lot of attention by sharing your story about escaping North Korea. But what actually made you and your mother finally attempt to get out? What was kind of the final straw? Give us your story.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's a real honor. The only reason that I escaped from North Korea when I was 13 years old was just really hunger. At the time when I was living in North Korea, I did not even know the word freedom or even the word love. Those concepts did not exist in North Korea. So when I was initially escaping, I was not looking for freedom because I did not even know what that was. But I was really starving, and that got us to escape from North Korea.
Oh my gosh. So for people who live in the United States who, we hear about North Korea from time to time. We have a general idea, of the dictatorship there with Kim Jong Un and the whole thing. But what is day-to-day life like for people in North Korea? Or what was it like for you as a 13-year-old?
So I think this is a common thing that most of people don't have any clue about North Korea. Of course, North Korea does not have freedom, does not have electricity, or does not have internet, but it is a country that lack of a lot of concepts. The very first thing that my mother told me as a young girl was, "Don't even whisper," because the birds and mice could hear me. She told
Wow.
me that if I said one wrong word, it was going to kill up to 3 to 8 generations of my family. So people don't even know what the freedom of speech is there. So like the moment I was born in the country, I was taught to be a revolutionary. I was not a human being. I did not have any individualism in me. The only purpose that I was alive and I had to live for was serving the Communist Party and dying for the party of the nation.
Wow. And you lived like that, and I assume you believed that because that's all you knew up until you were so hungry, you were literally starving. And how did you and your mother eventually get out?
Yeah, so I mean, in North Korea, even though I want to really add this, the country that found upon the ideas of communism or socialism or equity, they divided North Koreans into 51 different castes. And because I was in the lower caste, the government determined that I was not deserved to be fed. The government really decide who gets fed, who does not get fed. And my caste was not something that government cared. So because of that, I had to find way to find food. And luckily, I was living in the border town of North Korea, a city called Haesan. And at nighttime, I was able to see electricity lights coming from Chinese side. I don't know if you have seen the satellite picture of North Korea at nighttime. Have you seen that?
And now I imagine it must be dark.
It is literally the darkest place in the whole world. It's a black hole. And in that darkness, I was seeing the lights across the river. And I literally thought maybe if I go where the lights are, I might be able to find a bowl of rice. And that curiosity led me to cross frozen Yalu River into China with my mother in 2007.
Wow. And so when that happened, obviously you had escaped from this country. I imagine your journey to get to America then was quite an event. What was that like though, coming from North Korea and then eventually ending up in the freest country in the entire world, the United States of America? That must have been quite a shock for you.
Yeah, I can just summarize quickly my escape. I did go to China, and I this is why I'm speaking out. A lot of people don't understand what's happening when North Koreans escape to China. As soon as I got to Chinese side, the first thing I saw was my mother being raped, and they caught me and they sold me as a sex slave. So a lot of people know that China had a one child policy under Communist Party, right? But because of this evil policy, there are 33 million Chinese men cannot find wives because they aborted so many girls. So because of that, when I went to China, Chinese government state sponsored human trafficking is happening. I was sold as a slave, and 2 years later, I was rescued by Christian missionaries from South Korea. I had to cross the Gobi Desert into Mongolia, then South Korea, and then 5 years later, I came to America in 2016 to study at Columbia University. When
Wow.
I and as you know what's happening at Columbia University, when I got to Columbia at 2016 to study at the First Nation, I literally couldn't believe it because the things that students were being taught at university was the things that I was learning in North Korean classroom. Like
Wow.
all the problems that we have in the world is because of the greedy capitalism and because of the white men. And the things that North Korean students were learning in classrooms were taught in New York City at Columbia University.
Wow. I was going to ask you about that because I knew you went
Hmm.
to Columbia. Let me back up because I want to get there with you, but I think people when they heard about your story initially were obviously it's crazy and people were blown away by it. But when you started to point out the mass indoctrination, sort of like what you're talking about happening in places in America, like in our schools, what happened? What was the response you got from that? Because I can imagine that there were probably some people in this country who didn't like that you were speaking out on that.
Oh yeah, I was called the CIA spy, the liar. I mean, literally when I spoke out in classrooms, they would tell me that I'm brainwashed.
Wow.
So it was unbelievable how people were so brainwashed in America. Like when I was in North Korea, I was so brainwashed that I believed that kings had the power to read my thoughts. That I believed the kings were gods, could do perform miracles. And when I came to America, I found another group of people were so brainwashed that believe, white people are evil because of their skin color and the things that we know is not true. And these kind of ideas were grabbing students' minds at Columbia University and outside of Columbia, obviously.
It's sad that we are even talking about that because I think people look at a place like North Korea and they say, well, that's so far away, that's so extreme, that's so different than the United States. But you're saying that you felt like they were forcing people at Columbia to think the way that you were forced to think in many ways while living under communist rule in North Korea. I mean, with everything, Yeonmi, going on now at Columbia and all these universities across our country, are you surprised at all at what you see, or was this a bit of a predictable outcome based on what you witnessed not so many years ago there?
I think when you really do follow these ideas like socialism, it's inevitable that you do have to bend the truth and logic. So when I was at Columbia, the professors were saying things like, math is racist, how math is made up by white people to control minority. And when I was in North Korean classroom as a kid, my teacher taught us math, how math is made up. She asked me one day, what is 1 plus 1? And I said 2, and she says wrong. Because Kim Jong-il, my dear leader at the time, discovered that if you add 1 drop of water to another drop of water, it becomes bigger one. It does not become 2, right? So that's how
Wow.
discovered that math is made up by white people to control minority. This nonsense is being taught at Columbia. But in some sense, I think what I find at Columbia was like worse than North Korea. At least in North Korea, we know that men cannot become women. We don't have 10,000 pronouns. That really
Yeah.
shocked me to my core. It's like, in some sense, they gone a lot further than North Korea did to even
Wow.
bend the biology. So it's inevitable when you have a generation of people are toying with this idea, this evil ideology called socialism that is not, it's all fake made up ideology. Then now they have to go attacking every truth, otherwise socialism can never work.
All right, I very quickly want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Swiss America. Our country's facing so many problems these days under Joe Biden, the last thing any of us need is more to worry about. Unfortunately, we now have to fear losing our freedom and privacy with the Democrats' new push for a digital dollar that could allow the government to tell us what we can and cannot buy with our own hard earned money. That's why I'm encouraging every one of you tuning into the show right now to get The Secret War on Cash, an insightful report created by my friends at Swiss America. With this report, you'll learn how to protect yourself from the threats facing our freedom and your hard earned money. The report is available right now to my listeners free of charge. Just call 1 800 289 2646 or visit www.swissamerica.com/Trump for your free report. You might have heard Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of their big box stores or shopping channels the way they used to. They've been victims of cancel culture, so they want to pass the savings directly on to you by having a $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just a one product company, but with the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products, some you may not even know about. To get the word out, I want to invite my listeners to check out their $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use My Pillows, just $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. Their 6-pack towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels, you guessed it, just $25. For the first time ever, the premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, just $25. All orders over $75 will receive free shipping. This amazing offer won't last long. Go to mypillow.com and use promo code Trump or call 800-624-3945 today. Yeah, I mean, it's a very slippery slope, and I look at the way that it feels like truly the indoctrination of our younger generations here in America has really taken hold of them. And it's very worrisome, I think, for a lot of people. What happens to America long term if this sort of thing continues? And your most recent book, it's called While Time Remains, a North Korean Defector's Search for Freedom in America. And it goes into how authoritarian tactics are used in the name of wokeness and social justice. But I guess my question for you is, do you see a way out of this for our younger generations in America? Where do you see this going for us?
Yeah, I think this is the first thing is really talking about it, like you people who are aware what's happening. I think the one thing I really want to make sure Americans understand, there are two types of dictatorships. One is a physical dictatorship where you are not free to move, free to show your hair, right? The dictatorship that we understand. But the second dictatorship is a dictatorship of the mind. That is the most important dictatorship, and that is like what North Korea mastered at it. And I think
Mhm.
what I'm seeing in America, of course, we have freedom to, wear jeans and move around and have a free speech. But then there is this thing called a dictatorship of mind. There's so many people are not free in their minds. And the only way I think for us to get out of this is really using our freedom of speech to educate each other and really I think that is being, I have a son myself, and I really do my best to not let him get indoctrinated from American school system. And, and what
You
I
said you
learned
have
that
a son.
yes, I have
How
six
old
years
is he?
old. 6 years old, starting first grade, and I'm very
Oh,
nervous parent, like, raising
yeah.
child in America, and I cannot imagine having a little commie in my household, right?
Wow. That's amazing.
So,
So you and I
mhm.
have have sons the same age. My son is 6 as well. And so yeah,
Oh,
next year he'll go into first grade. And look, as someone who was blessed enough to be born in this country, I have witnessed myself the direction that this country is going, especially in our educational system, is very frightening to me as a parent. It's very frightening to me as someone who knows that there has been a massive change. We're not teaching our children the real history of America in a lot of respects. There are some history books out there, Yomi, who within these books that are being taught to our students across the entire country right now, they tell you that Donald Trump won the 2016 election because he colluded with Russia. That is actually printed in history books that they're teaching our kids right now. That is a lie. That is
yeah.
fake. And so it is very scary. How are you navigating that with your son?
I think it really got like I had to really understand what it means to be a free person and what founding fathers meant freedom. Freedom without discipline and virtues of anarchy, right? And we see so many people does not understand the responsibility of being a free person, which means it's our job. I think it's our self-governance. If as a parent as we are, if we did a good job of raising our children and telling them the truth and transfer the knowledge that we understand about the world, we would not have this generation of women or students chanting death to America. Literally, when I was at Columbia, the professors were saying the only solution that we have to fix all the problems is dismantling American system, tearing down the Constitution. So I think it really gotta start us individuals, the self-government, starting at home, starting with ourselves, starting with our children, with our friends. And when we do take care of our household, our friends, ourselves, I do think we can go out and change the world.
Well, you're starting right now. I think your story is wow. What an experience you've had. What a life you've lived. How old are you right now?
I'm 30 years old now.
Wow. I mean, you've lived multiple lives in 30 years. Absolutely incredible. And did you come in 2014, you said, to the United States?
I was visiting, but I moved in January 2016. So
So,
that's when I
so
started Columbia. Hmm.
were you able at all to witness America before President Trump? Certainly you were here during his tenure as
Hmm.
president, and now after. I wonder if there are any major changes you noticed that happened as someone relatively new to this country.
I think that's a shame that I did not appreciate the safety and normalcy of America during the President Trump's years because at the time I really took that for granted. I thought like anybody can do that thing. Now I first my life was under President Trump and now is Biden. I literally don't recognize New York City. I don't recognize this city. I don't recognize this country anymore. Literally, if I go out of my home on the streets, the country is invaded. I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe anywhere. And it's amazing to me how fast a country can decline. A country like America, this powerful, this big, can decline. It's unbelievable to me. And I
Yeah.
feel so guilty that I was not appreciated before. At the time, I was complaining for everything like everybody else. And now I see, what, that was not an easy thing to do, keeping your country safe.
Right. No, it's
Hmm.
well, it takes a little bit of common sense, which unfortunately doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of these days. You warn people about what happens in North Korea as well as China, because you were obviously there, as you said, you saw some horrific things, you experienced some horrific things while you were in China. What are some things that Americans don't realize that are also happening in China right now? I believe that China is our biggest threat right now, our greatest adversary. There are a lot of people who probably don't recognize that because they've played this sort of long game and they've slowly infiltrated our society and affected our society, whether it's through TikTok or whether it's through funding some of the really crazy stuff that we see happening in this country. There's no doubt China is behind a lot of it. What light can you shed on things that maybe Americans don't realize are going on in China or that China might be responsible for?
Yeah, I'm so grateful you're asking that question. Like my life mission, of course, is that as a survivor of North Korea and this human trafficking, there are 300,000 North Korean women are trapped in China and they're being sold. Their organs are harvested out of them. They get killed, raped. It's a modern day slavery, right? When I came to America, I had a chance to meet Hillary Clinton, Jeff Bezos, Harvey Weinstein, and actually all this like American elite who says they care about American people, like Nancy Pelosi. When I got to meet these people, I begged them. They publicly say they support women, they support me too, and they support that they don't support the slavery. And when I told them what was happening to Northern women, they all said, please don't tell people that you know me because they all have business in China. They are making money out of this horrible government in China.
Wow.
And when there was a Hollywood producer was trying to make a movie about my first book, In Order to Live. And when I got the script from this Hollywood producer, it said my promised land was China. China gave me protection and refugee, and it was a complete lie. And that's when I realized most of Americans have no clue how horrible CCP is, what a threat CCP is posing to whole humanity. If you care about anything, I do think the first thing we need to solve is the CCP problem. But most of people think somehow Russia is our threat. And like the drug is smuggled to America, that's from China. Everything
Right.
is behind. All of it is behind. Like behind that is CCP. And whenever people like myself or other people trying to raise awareness about CCP, they get attacked and they call this a fake news. So I don't know how to wake up American people to see the threat of CCP. And literally, I think American survival, our freedom is depending on like if we are going to defeat CCP or not.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I think for a lot of people, Yeonmi, it might come when it's too late that they realize that China is such a threat. I think that this has been, like I said, a long game that they've played. They've done it very surreptitiously so that people here don't really recognize it as a very forward threat towards our country, but it is happening. It's going on right now while we're talking, and we're only getting closer to a place where we lose our position as leader of the free world, and China would love to take up that mantle and carry that onward. It's a very dangerous thing. It's a very dangerous time. And I am just so grateful that first of all, that you escaped, that you made it to a place where you have a great life and you're a mom. Happy belated Mother's Day. I think that, gosh, no one deserves it more than you. And truly, thank you for being brave enough to tell your story, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who would say, I'm afraid to speak out. I just want to be left alone. Why did you feel like it was so important to make your voice known, to write a book, to tell your story?
So the first book I wrote it because I really wanted people to know what's happening to the 25 millions of North Koreans. Like they literally go through the modern day Holocaust and nobody knows about it. But the second book was very more personal because I lived through actually the pandemic era when I was forced to put a mask on my toddler child who did not even know how to walk at the time. And how on earth in America, in a free society, I could not leave my door if I did not put a mask on. If I didn't get the vaccine, I could not eat at the restaurant. I could not go on a plane and work and have a job and make a living. And I was thinking, this is not a free country anymore. Like, I think that dawned on me, even in America, is not immune to tyranny. If we don't fight back, this country can really easily become like North Korea. And when that happens, it's too late to fight back. So
Right.
I think in some sense, like the COVID was like something that was a necessity for me to go through, even to realize that freedom is so fragile. Like it's not a cliche thing to say. It's a really truly fragile thing. When we stop defending it, it will go away.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more with you. Where can people find out more about your book, follow you, find out what you're up to? Where can they do that?
Yeah, they can follow me on X. So my handle is at Yeonmi Park NK, and they can find my books on Amazon.
Amazing. Well, you are brave. You are incredible. You are, I mean, truly an inspiration. If people don't hear your story and feel inspired after what you came through and to see you today, I don't think anything would ever make a person feel inspired. So, Yeonmi Park, thank you for joining us here on The Right View. To everybody at home, as always, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.